Greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to Oberon's Outlook on the Emotional Exchanges. It's a one-week forecast with tarot cards for the astrology signs by element, where we look at the emotional situations going on, love, relationships, friendly things, unfriendly things. We tell it all to you. So let's get started right away. And our first reading is for our air signs. And air signs are Gemini and Libra and Aquarius. And so we want to also give them the word of the week. And their word of the week is uncertainty. So think about that word this week, especially as it applies to any of your emotional situations going on. Alrighty, so we're going to shuffle those cards, and soon we will know what this week will look like emotionally for our air signs. As you can tell, I tend to like Egyptian motifs, so I've been using them a lot with this show. Okay, and I'm doing my cut, and we'll now pull the Six of Swords, the Ace of Wands, and the Princess of Discs. So what does this mean for our air signs? Well, the Six of Swords tells us that emotionally speaking, we are taking a journey in our thoughts and our feelings. We're trying to remove ourselves from some situations that distressed us. It's not the end of the world, but it's probably not the best of situations. But we're starting something new too, and it is promising because it looks like it's a new enterprise, a new social outlet. Maybe you're going to be invited to some club or party and have a good time. Maybe it'll be something to do with your fellows in the fire signs. You know, air signs and fire signs can be compatible, so it might be something like that. Maybe there's a particular person or situation you may actually run into this week. The Princess of Discs, which of course in a more traditional tarot, that energy is like the prince, or I'm sorry, the page of discs or pentacles. So we're talking about persevering. We're talking about focusing on our goals. And maybe if those are emotional goals, if we're trying to achieve something in those emotional realms, this card really is favorable for that. So once again, I'm going to remind you about the word uncertainty and try to remember that things are not necessarily as uncertain, that although we may have to make some situations and changes, we look like we're vibrating to something happening emotionally that's good. So take that and see what happens, air signs. And that's what we have for you today. So now we're going to move on to our fire signs. And fire signs are signs like Aries and Leo and Sagittarius. So you know who you are, you fire signs. And you are certainly fiery in the emotional realms. So we're going to give to you a word of the week. And that word of the week is immortality. And so fire signs, you are the element that is the closest to something really spiritual in a way. The other elements are grounded in natural things, but fire is literally the spirit of change in a way, you know, if you want to look at it that way, and I do. So let's see what happens with our immortal feelings there. Remember, energy can never be destroyed, and fire is the energy of all in a way. So feel immortal and act accordingly in all of our emotional situations, fire signs. So I have shuffled those cards, and I am now cutting the deck. Soon in a moment we will know. And we're going to have three cards. We're going to have the King of Cups, and we're going to have the Fool, Major Arcana 0. And then we also have another Major Arcana, Justice, Major Arcana 11. So what does that mean for us fire signs, or you fire signs? Well, the King of Cups is maybe very tempering to the fire signs because it is a cup of a person who is comfortable with their emotions. So maybe that episodes this week will add a level of comfort to you if there is not actually some person male or female, who has those energies, that embodiment of that energy of a serenity and a grace and an ability to counsel people, an ability to show the best part of human feeling. Maybe that is you. I don't know. But you also have the Fool. And the Fool is a card of beginnings. And the Fool could be a card of challenges too. So I'm now getting the feeling like maybe there is a situation with our relationship. I don't think this is a new relationship. I think it's a relationship that we're already in, fire signs. And the final card for me to pull into that is Justice. And I have a feeling that there is a situation in fire signs this week where they will be looking at how they determine what's fair in their relationships and whether there are needs to maybe renegotiate parts of relationships. And so some of this could be more intimate relationships. Maybe we want to explore some other possibilities with totally monogamous relationships or not. Or maybe we just have certain questions about where is the balance of fairness and justice in a relationship as we do move closer towards maybe some true commitment. So those are the kind of questions and situations that are approaching us, fire signs. So keep in mind your word of immortality. I have a feeling it will serve you well. And remember that everything exists and that everything else changes. I know that's a paradox, but that's Oberon for you, right? So now we're going to move on to the water signs. And water signs are signs like Cancer and Scorpio and Pisces. And these signs are very at home in the realm of emotional readings and situations because water signs do tend to be more emotional. There's that whole flow thing going on there. So I want to give my water signs a word of the week. Oh my, that's a word of the week for you guys. It's passion. So I'm going to just show that right there to you, passion. And so keep this in mind for the week, but I have a feeling that emotions, friendships, relationships, varying degrees of intimacy and love will have a passion of their own. So let's find out more about what's going on for water signs. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle those cards. Do my fabulous riffle, which I like to do at least once. And shuffling. Oops, one fell to the floor. The Two of Discs. I'm going to leave that there for now. I have a feeling I need to leave that there. And maybe bring that in later. I think I certainly will do that. So let's see. We've done our cut and now we're going forward. And we have the Ten of Cups, the Prince of Cups, and the Hierophant. Wow, this is quite an interesting set for emotional, watery water signs. The Ten of Cups literally can be the pinnacle of happiness, and maybe that pinnacle of happiness is shared with somebody who's like the Prince of Cups to you. You know, they're just somebody that's attracted to you, or you are that person to them. Maybe this is about how these people come into your life or how you go into their lives. And the Hierophant, lately I've been changed about how I look at the Hierophant, although I recognize those concepts of traditionalism and conformity to some degree. I also see that this is about expanding that world, and that maybe the Hierophant also says that all kinds of love and all kinds of relationships and unions are favorable and can be found. And so I'm thinking for our water signs this week, we maybe are really delving deep into those relationships we have, or forging ahead with the relationships that maybe we want to make with our own Prince of Cups. And we want to find that true value in expanding the boundaries of love rather than limiting them. And that sounds like a really water sign kind of thing to do. So just keep in mind that you need to approach this with all the passion you normally do approach, and probably it's going to be a really good week for those emotional signs. And then back to that Two of Discs. This is just a lot to really balance there, but this is what it really is that this week is very important for water signs. This is obviously an important week with a lot to do. So go forth and get busy. Don't just be sitting here listening to me, okay? It's time to move ahead. So now finally at last we're going to move on to our earth signs. And earth signs are signs like Taurus and Virgo and Capricorn, and they're earthy. They tend to be a little bit less showing of their emotions, dependent upon other situations, perhaps in their chart. But they have a word of the week too, and that word is revelation. So I want you earth signs to think about what are the things that are revealed to you in this week, and what do they mean? A revelation is something very important. A revelation possibly changes everything. So what could that possibly mean for our earth signs? Let's go ahead and shuffle the cards. See, I really do shuffle them. I wasn't holding them quite in the camera view, but they're there. They really are. Okay, getting a little silly here. It's been a long day, but I enjoy what I share with you, as I do also enjoy what Banshee and I both share with you. So let's go ahead and cut this deck, and soon we will have a sense of what's going on for earth signs this week. All right, the deck has been cut, and we have the Three of Cups, the reversed Seven of Cups, and the reversed Five of Cups. So there's a lot of emotional change around earth signs this week too. And what I see is kind of interesting, because I see a lot of good things happening, a lot of shared value with friends, and maybe we're getting together at important situations like people's weddings or parties to announce engagements or things like that. But I'm also seeing a couple other things. One of them is this reverse Seven of Cups. This is a good card, actually. It's a card showing that we are focusing on our goals, that we have considered what they are, that maybe we're inspired by those relationships of love and friendship amongst our family and friends that we see. But the reality may be for some of the earth signs is that some of that's going to be a little bit hard to negotiate this week. The Five of Cups sort of suggests that we're breaking out anew in a way, and maybe the Seven of Cups did too, with that focusing on one idea. But with the Five of Cups, we're kind of breaking out anew, and we're moving ahead, and maybe some things are still around, but we're not necessarily that concerned with what has happened. We want to forge ahead. And so it's kind of interesting, because I think that goes along with the Revelation card that I showed was the word of the week for earth signs. And so I'm just wondering if that, once we decide that we really want to emulate the better things in our lives around us, the friendships we have, and we focus on that goal, that, you know, there is the sense of really having to leave some things behind and move ahead. So it's really a matter of where you set your priorities, and maybe that's what the revelation is that maybe you have really decided what is and is not as important to you. Oh, earth signs. So we know that feeling, and that's pretty much what it is with the earth signs. So once again, this is Oberon Osiris, and that's Oberon's outlooks for the emotional exchanges. So see you again next week. Bye now.